Okay, good morning, everybody. On Thursday, the 6th of November, it's 10 a.m. in New York, but you know what time it is by you in the different places where you are. You change the world every week on the different social media channels. To start with YouTube, please subscribe because I don't see very much movement over there. LinkedIn uh, and Facebook and Instagram and X Twitter. And then the podcast side is don't forget about Amazon, about Apple, and about especially Apple and Spotify. Okay, so I said everything I had to say for the housekeeping. Thank you, Graziella, to join us as our guest. Thank you very much. How are
My
you?
pleasure, Andre, and lovely to see you today.
So you know, always an honor for me, a special honor to have another coach joining this half hour with our audience who are all kind of people out there, but also involved in the workplace, in all the challenges, the daily challenges. So I think we can always bring different lights and different complementary ideas. So that's why this is something I want to do, relaxed and spontaneously. That's what I didn't have really an agenda in mind. We have just a conversation ahead of us. So I think the natural thing to ask you is, if you don't mind, to take a few seconds or minutes to introduce yourself. That would be great.
Of course, my pleasure.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to collaborate with you at the ICF Board of Directors, the Global Board, and it's been an honor to be working alongside so many interesting coaches in this process. Thank you for inviting me today.
Great.
In terms of background, I'm originally from Brazil, but
Yeah.
I've been living in the UK for 24 years now. I started my career in the financial sector, so I worked for JP Morgan doing credit research. Then I went to the training program in New York, did M&A. Then I did business school, and I moved to London. So moved to London in 2000. And here I worked for American Express for many years in three different jobs until I was VP of Business Development and strategy. And following Amex, I had a little break to be a mom. I have three children. And then I moved into the not-for-profit sector with Save the Children. And after Save the Children is when I started to discover my potential as a coach.
Yes.
I worked for a charity that needed coaching for their professors outside of London, and I had a wonderful experience doing that and decided to invest. So that's about 8 years ago. I certified myself as a coach. I'm now PCC with the International Coaching Federation. I have my own coaching practice, but I also work alongside organizations as an external coach. And I worked very closely with London Business School, coaching their alumni, their executive MBA, and I often do workshops, webinars, and collaborate a lot with London Business School. And of course, my work with the International Coaching Federation is a fantastic opportunity to understand the world of coaching, where coaching is going as a profession, how to elevate the value of coaching to society, demonstrate how we can elevate society through coaching, and collaborate with other coaches doing a lot of different incredible things. So that's a bit of a summary.
No, that's a great, impressive summary, and thank you for sharing that. I was looking at things, that are currently happening out there. I do something, maybe you do the same. I don't know. At the end of one day, if I see two, if I see three, sometimes a little bit more clients, sometimes face to face, and most of the time virtually, since COVID, this is now the trend. Um, I try to see if there was a common denominator between them, if there is some kind of a theme. And I don't know, I find this to be a little bit divine that every day, if I would have, let's say, four, three of the four would bring the same topic about. and and every day there is really a dominant thing that happens. It's definitely a theme. It's definitely something at the top of the heads of these people that I have. If it's in fact individuals or sometimes there are teams, those themes are always going around uncertainty, very kind of inner alignment with different things and values that ignite emotional reactions or preoccupations, but a certain element of discomfort. And then, of course, at different levels, it can be what they call, the imposter syndrome for many of them. And if it's not, It's definitely ambitions to grow and to get stability. And it's a funny thing to, and I just will share that with you because the thing that I hear myself saying very often is, why are you so dependent on all of that? Why are you putting yourself unchained, really, in so many things that you put in the hands of your employer, of your boss, of your stakeholders, of your shareholders? Why you put your whole life in their hands? So that's one thing. I don't know. It comes to me to tell you. But what do you have on your side?
I think these are really good reflections to have. What are common themes? My type of client is usually someone who's been promoted and is doing really well. So is operating at a senior level, C-suite, or maybe one or two levels below. And they have had the sense of accomplishment. So they felt that their efforts and energy have led to a seniority level. And the challenges tend to be related to managing their teams, creating an atmosphere of collaboration and engagement. And because of all this uncertainty and so many organizations going through so much change, sometimes they themselves are struggling on how to communicate that change, how to create safe space to have difficult conversations in the workplace, and how to manage their own, how to self-regulate. And it's very interesting to observe because a lot of those leaders, they have been so successful sometimes because of their knowledge, that, knowledge is power, and they have had success in doing things and achieving things. But they not necessarily have had a lot of training on emotional intelligence, on emotional regulation, on social skills. And then the more senior you become, the science shows that the more those qualities become important. So a lot of the conversations I'm having in my coaching practice are around building that emotional intelligence, and helping them see how they come across and the impact that their attitudes have on their teams. And things like excessive control, lack of empathy, too much pressure to deliver without really understanding the team's skill sets or personal circumstances are definitely on the way. So today, for example, I had an important conversation about someone who's a very high achiever. And when I asked him what's on the way, he's going through a transition and there are lots of challenges in the environment that he's in. He still needs to prove himself because it's a new role. What's on the way? And it's usually relationships. Mm-hmm. So my work has been very focused on understanding what is preventing that person from being open and honest, from bringing empathy to conversations, really getting to know and building trust. Trust is so key, right?
Yes.
So this is a very common theme: building emotional intelligence, self-regulation, social skills, the ability to have difficult conversations with our teams. Without compromising the relationship.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's very, very great. Yes, I'm seeing this like something pretty deep, and for high performance to connect to emotional intelligence, right? People do not connect the dot very well. So I totally agree. So that's one thing, and I'm just wondering, through their different challenges, right? If there is something you see on your side that maybe has to do with the cultural aspect, because I see also that there is, they've been talking so many years now into inclusion and diversity and those topics, and I never thought that people really were knowing what they were talking about, to be very honest. My sense of, inclusion is inclusive leadership. That means I'm curious about where you're coming from. I'm curious about your background. I'm curious to know how I'm going to adapt my leadership, my style of communicating with you, right? To you, for you to understand what I mean. There's so many people who get offended. You talked about emotional intelligence and build it. That's an interesting concept that you said that. They need to build it. They have maybe all the theories in mind. They went to, university, learned a lot of things from the book. I don't know. But when it comes to practice, then I'm in front of some people or from one person, I say something and I see that person doesn't get me. And I did not I was not mindful of this person way of understanding this kind of thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Uh,
I really resonate with what you're saying. And this week I attended the Thinkers 50, which is a fantastic conference here in London that brings all the brilliant minds on a management practice, and professors from Harvard Business School, from London Business School, and thought leaders. And there was a lot of conversation about the future of leadership and what they call the regenerative leader. So the leader that would take into account the changes, will be able to operate in the AI space. And there were lots of conversations about the importance of building bridges and connections. Like Professor Linda Hill talks in her model, the importance of building that bridge, of being the leader that takes away the silos and invites conversation. And she is talking about how we need to seek the difference, right? That the teams that are the highest performing are the ones that are able to be open-minded about other points of view. And so there are lots of leaders that want lots of mini-me's. They want to hire people that are like them. That, as science shows, doesn't bring the best outcomes. But it is harder. It's much harder to work with people you don't know and to be able to be open-minded to different points of view. So one of the points they were making is the leader of the future will have to be able to hold that space.
yes.
Invite different points of view and to be able to stay with the ambiguity and not necessarily resolve it. And sometimes it's the agree to disagree, but invite those points of view. So ultimately, the conversation will be taking into account everyone, and the likelihood that the solution is the best is better because there were no new perspectives, new points of view. And she even talked about sort of inviting conflict, but conflict that we need to build up the skills to have these conversations without them escalating into emotional outbursts, right?
How do you do that?
Hold that conflict in the room in a way that is collaborative, that enables people to feel safe to share. And so Amy Edmondson, another Harvard professor, has built that concept of psychological safety.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying, to be able to feel understood and that people to feel that they have a voice, they need to feel safe. And if leaders are not working on building that safe space, that's not going to happen. So I completely see that point, the importance of, and in my practice, encouraging the leaders that I work with to build more empathy, to learn to listen at level 3. And in coaching, we learn, the different levels of listening. It's what you're listening without preparing the response. Like you are listening really to understand. You're listening with curiosity, and you're building that trust in the process because the person will feel heard. They will feel seen, and then they will give you space to give your point of view. So all of that gets completely ignored in the, achieve. But it's so critical for efficient decision making and for proper collaboration.
Okay.
So that's the way forward. Yeah.
The complexity of human beings. Right. Maybe let's move a little bit to something about. So I think you gave a little bit of a framework of how what's going on, and with this conference that you attended, what could be on top of mind. Now, what's on the way? As I'm trying to see, what's on the way for the generation today of the leaders of today. Let's say, right? We just had an election in New York, and that mayor is 34 years old. I was thinking, and it's not about politics because I have no opinion for anything here. It's just about the age and leadership, right? He's going to get to lead somehow to a certain extent. He's going to lead some aspect of the city, the biggest in the world. I'm just trying to think, age is not really a relevance anymore. You bring a maturity of some sort. Is it maturity? I'm trying to see what is in fact the key that someone needs to be influential and especially efficient, managing a budget, being able to empower people to be creative and to come with reasonable ideas and bring their wisdom, to the table.
What I've seen when we study successful leaders and effective leadership is very much about having a humility.
Oh.
And I don't know if you remember the framework of learner versus knower. And the knower framework is very much of, I know better. I have knowledge and let me tell you what to do and how it's done. And it's very much leveraging the power of knowledge. And that creates a very different kind of dynamic within teams, because then people feel like, okay, I need to do what I was told. There is less collaboration, less brainstorming, and people feel less seen and heard. The future approach, the way I see things evolving, is the learner. Why? The learner leader is curious, and the learner leader understands their team's skill sets and experiences and how to best allocate the tasks to the most appropriate person in the team. The learner is open-minded to being challenged. So, we are solving a problem. We have this project. This is how we're going to do. Somebody in the team says, "Oh, can I give my own opinion?" Okay, let's see. What can we learn from this person? And it's creating, again, a safe environment so that people will have the courage to share their voices, even when they disagree. That will bring better solutions. The learner is also able to do what we call the situational leadership. What does that mean? It means you adjust your style to the situation.
Mhm.
Some people in your team will need more guidance and direction. Some others are doing so well, what you need is just to step back and have a catch up. So the learner is more of a coach, really. The learner is able to have curiosity, to listen, to really get to know the team, and he is humble enough to know that there might be different ways. It's open to other possibilities. And so what I think gets on the way is the ego
Right.
to be the right person, to have the final point, to not acknowledge that they don't know everything, and to invite conversations that can be uncomfortable.
Right.
So the way I see it is as the future of leadership is the learner approach.
Wow, I absolutely agree with you. And when you said the word humility, I was thinking it's a posture, to be humble. It's courageous, but how do you get the respect, right? Because you're still the leader. You have to be seen somehow as the leader, right? Because otherwise, you cannot give any direction. Even with situational leadership, you have a style adapted to the profile of the people that you lead. Very good, or the situations that you said. But what about this humble leader? And I'm trying to always visualize that. So I don't know many of those, but in fact, I take a Bible example. I think the most humble known leader we had ever in the world was Moses, or after that, David, King David. They were very humble people, so humble, and they were so powerful.
That's it.
What brings the respect? What can set the stage for the good communication between the two?
I love that you asked this question, Andrea, because we are so used to the traditional style of being told, and this is how it is, and to respect authority. The leader is less hierarchical, because it knows that different people have different skill sets, and they might be 2-3 levels below them, but they can still have a huge amount of positive contribution to the conversation or ideas. And I like that you said respect and not liked. And I always, when I'm working with my clients that are leaders, the conversations that you don't need to be liked. It's actually very important to be comfortable with not being liked. The more senior you are, the more decisions you make that are not popular. And so, but if you have had if you have opened up the conversation, if you have taken points of view, if you have taken into account and people have felt heard and seen, ultimately, it's up to you to decide how things go. But you're incorporating the knowledge and the ideas. And so people will respect you more.
Yes.
They will see you as someone who's a collaborator and humble enough to know that they know and don't know everything. And it's interesting because when people seem too perfect, they don't connect with their teams, right? So if you look at the vulnerability of being humble makes teams be even more connected and wanting to follow their leaders, because it's a human. It's a human that doesn't know everything. It's a human that can make mistakes and that is open and curious to what could be. So that actually, when people do that, others perceive them as more confident.
I
It
think that's
sounds
the point.
counterintuitive, right?
Exactly the point. Yes, I think that's the point. The
But you were so
confidence.
confident that you were open to other people's ideas.
I work a lot with those clients about their confidence because I say if you display that confidence and not again artificially, it has to come from the inside. You're really confident. That's how people look at you with trust. Because first of all, you are sincere, you're authentic, you're sincerely caring for the people around you, and I think caring is the source, the root of confidence, of trust, of trust. If you show that you care, I think then I trust you. You care for me, I trust you because I see that it's true. um, then
And
what's
trust is
Yeah,
so core, isn't it? So I was listening to Brené Brown's podcast, the recent one, and
yes,
she was talking about how trust is built in small doses. And you were talking about the marble jar, it's not from one day to the next, but all the research shows that once leaders build trust with their teams, their
yes,
effectiveness improves so much because you are not scared and worried. You're bringing your best to the table. You're trying new things, and without the trust, the level of commitment and engagement is not the same. So I like that you talk about trust. It's so critical.
great. That's great. So we have only almost 10 minutes, and I just would like to first make a pause for a second and try to step back and say, well, I'm talking to Graziela now, and she's another coach there on the other side of the Atlantic in the UK. I'm here in the US, and all I hear from you, does it kind of ring a buzz, something, a generic distinction between what I do and she does? Because that's what, in fact, the purpose of this conversation, we complement each other. So I was thinking, what is it? I think it could be, but you tell me if I'm wrong. I think that you hold, you know, much more the move from the self, from the person's self into the world with clarity. That's the with humility, but it is from the self person into the world, and with clarity. It communicates. It has impact. On my side, I have a lot of work to do on the self, on this inner side of the person. In other words, we need to build that confidence first. We need to at least connect to it. Um, it will not display the right way if it's not sincere and if it's not deep inside. Often I thought when I got to coaching a long time ago, I mean, I don't know, 18 years ago, I thought coaching, because I was coached by different coaches also already back then, not leadership coaching, was more life coaching. And I was really wondering if they were not a little bit superficial, right? Uh, I will always remember my wife in a session of a group session. People we don't know would say to each other, "I love you," and my wife said, "No, you don't love me. You don't know me. What are you talking about? I love you."
Yes.
So the context of artificial, inner, sincere, true, and authentic, it's a lot of work. I don't know how many sessions it takes until the person starts feeling they can role play something or they can really replay a situation with me, and we see what really went wrong or what could have been going better in a difficult conversation. You talk about that difficult conversation, adversity, conflict resolution, right? That's another thing, right? I mediate also. I have this mediation practice, so I mediate people who are and terrible, the worst conditions, which is divorce. I don't ask me how I got to divorce mediation. A friend of mine told me to get into it. So, but I do not do much of it anymore because I'm also an emotional person and I don't like people fighting and especially destroying a household. It's a terrible thing. It's a real destruction. So, but when I look at the dynamic of it, what I see about conflict is people, as you said, do not listen to each other. They don't want to listen to the other points of view. So the coaching comes in. And when I coach, I'm a coach into mediation. That's what I bring. I bring, well, hold on. Are you listening to that person or what? That's what she said. And, I went to the extreme of writing down on a clipboard on the left side, this is what you want. This is what she wants. And, if we can't dispute it, she said that and you said that, you are agreeing. You said the same thing, you don't listen to her.
So what I see when I see this happening, it reminds me a little bit when I was raising my kids and they had arguments, and I said, okay, come everyone here. You're going to present your case and say, why are you upset? But you are going to need to be quiet, but pay attention because I'm going to ask you questions about what they said.
Yes.
And so, what I find is that the ideal model for collaboration really requires someone to have a voice first, one of them to have a voice to share how they feel without judging and criticizing. So it's about how they are receiving the information. And so this acknowledgement that everybody perceives the world differently, depending on how they grew up, their preferences, their styles, their values. So it's first is acknowledgement, right? The same thing might happen and two different people might perceive it in different ways based on their own values and systems. So let's say one person it says, okay, now you have the chance to have the voice, but no accusations. It's about how you feel and your interpretation. So after this person has the chance to say, you ask the other person to acknowledge. But again, what did you understand they are saying?
Mm-hmm.
And no criticism, no judgment. The other person has to say, well, you forgot this or you forgot that. Okay, so now I understand how you are feeling, but I don't agree. I'm just replaying how you're feeling. Now, this step 1 and 2, first of all, the chance to listen, and second, the chance to feel acknowledged, will make the person lower their armor, their defenses.
Okay.
And without that, they will not listen
Right.
to the other person. And so feeling that you have a say and feeling acknowledged by your point of view is a precursor for listening to the other side. And very often when I talk to you about listening to level 3, what happens is that we don't allow the curiosity. We are already thinking about the response. We are judging. And that's why there is no safe space for collaboration.
Okay.
So, say what you need to say without judging. The other person acknowledges, then you listen, and then you collaborate. Those are the steps. In theory, it's easier said than done because a lot of emotions come up. So emotional management has also to be, we are coming to this conversation when we are ready, when we are calm, when we are aligned, and when we're going to have respect. So setting the rules before, as we do in our board, ICF, we're going to have this conversation, but what are the rules? No accusations, no judgment.
Yes, right.
That's also so important, right?
Good. Yeah. So listen, we're getting to the end of this half hour, and I hope we'll have an occasion to go to see each other again on this line. But one thing, so after we just conversed about that, and I was really happy to hear what your experience is about here. What do you think? I think I would like to leave that time together on one theme that really represents today. 2025. We're coming into 2026 very soon. And your environment, corporate environment, with whichever organizations you are in, bringing your coaching talents and feelings, what is it that is on the top of the very top, if you would kind of have your ranking?
What I would say is self-awareness. A lot of the challenges arise from the fact that we don't understand how our behavior impacts others. And the more you become open-minded to how you're showing up to your teams, to your colleagues, your peers, the better you'll be able to manage your relationships and have more impact and influence. And that curiosity to understand also, sometimes realize that your previous tendencies are no longer serving you, that you need different skill sets to be effective is super important. So the humility to understand yourself better.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing to you. I think that the directive style does not exist anymore. That was, in fact, the generation of maybe 2 generations ago. Progressively, gradually, organizations became flatter. To some extent, that's their ambition, but I don't think they're so successful. They need to still keep a certain hierarchy because decisions have to be made by just a few, cannot be made by everybody.
Yeah.
But the leader is humble, as you're saying, listens. So it's opening the space for people to voice their opinion, and the knowledge, as you said, acknowledging their opinion, their voice. That will open up a lot of possibilities. So maybe we can leave it at that. Can we?
Perfect.
That's a great thing. Okay, very, very good. So,
Thank
Graziela,
you so
thank
much,
you. I
Andrea.
hope
Great
everybody
to see
gained something. I gained a lot from what you said, so I'm sure they did.
you. Great
And we'll see you soon again here. And I see you soon, also soon in person.
Me too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. See you next week. Bye. Yeah, let's once